Feeling alone in this world is yet one other reason to remind yourself that we live in a sick society, not in a society that actually seeks to do something for the people that actually exist. Yes, we are nothing else but slaves of our own egos, and at the same time, we're also slaves of people with far greater influence, far greater power, that they also have a certain ego. In a sick society, we have to understand that we usually end up living as victims of racing, yes, of constantly feeling in competition. But in this sick society, we can only feel that we are victims of this idea of materialism. One can live in duality. Yes, duality is something peculiar to this cosmos. But in any society, you either live in a sense, or, well, you end up embracing sooner or later the idea of thankfulness and being appreciative of what you have, or being more or less on the other side, which is materialism. Being thankful probably doesn't cuddle everyone's emotions, but being thankful with whatever you have kind of detaches you somewhat from those objects, because one should never forget that you came butt naked into this world and you're gonna leave this world butt naked. You're not gonna take any of the clothes or anything that you have accumulated in this world. You're not gonna take those with you. The only thing you will take with is your karma. How much you have suffered, how much gratefulness you felt, how much gratitude, how much hatred, how much circus you have entertained into your mind. All of these will remain a certain as an imprint within the piece of life that you have. Certain layers of karma will exist into it and will prevent it from reaching the ultimate liberation and becoming one with one with the cosmos, let's say in short, and therefore they will need to reincarnate yet again. And whatever happens in those lives, well, that's for other times. But one can also end up enjoying the idea of this separation because the hundreds of generations before us have lived in this circus entertainment. Yes, they've been entertaining this idea of being alone, of living financially on the edge, and then calling it a victory at the end of the month when they get their next salary so that they can splurge and live on the edge financially yet again. These are nothing else but self humiliations, and these have been becoming more prevalent in society. Take, for example, many of your jobs. Yes, many jobs are more or less like a humiliation ritual. You get through the same shit each and every day, and somehow you accept it because, well, another aspect of our previous generations. Whatever would happen badly, they will end up accepting because they feel powerless. A sick society is at its strongest when people feel powerless because people no longer coalesce, people no longer create communities when they are feeling powerless. And that is how everything in a society becomes entropic, more entropic than naturally. Yes, entropism is the natural tendency of things towards chaos. Yes, and obviously, the more hopeless people feel, the more fractures appear. Sick societies will excel then at creating more and more so called engineered minorities, or import some from other societies and cause even more friction because of cultural differences. And where there is tension, there is separation. Materialism is also one great cause of loneliness because materialism only teaches you to compare, to see that others have something that you wish for, to see that, everything kind of doesn't belong to you because since birth and karmically speaking, your generations before you have also been feeling that. So obviously, you will also be affected by it. The fact that you don't feel worthy of anything. Technically, in a way, this is a great liberation, but when someone is trapped in this idea of materialism, this feels like a curse because everything in a sick society is made with glitz and glitter. It's made so that you want it, right? Everything is made so that you feel in a race with others. Even when you want to buy something online, there is that little pesky message that says it's already in some several other carts. Yes? Typically, that is nothing else but a randomizer. Yes, it is just a randomizer function in there that gives you a certain number, and it remembers it for a certain period of time, say 1, 2, 3 minutes. If you refresh your page, you will see that there's no longer 12 cards. It's like only in other 7 cards, as if people have already bought those or they have given up. But there is always the pumping of this idea that you're always in a competition. You're always in a rush to achieve where? To go where? You're doing the same job constantly. Nothing seems to change. Probably you don't even have any other place to go higher in hierarchy. Yes? You're probably doing some hobby, which most likely is the only thing that is keeping you alive, mentally and psychologically. And then you have little time that probably you spend doom scrolling, or, well, the majority of people do that. And then they wonder why they feel alone, because there is no connection with themselves. They're not listening to music that elevates them, to music that actually sends them some messages. Because music was never supposed to be just some loops and, other repetitive sounds. Yes? So the point is, a lot of people forget that it's not that just the environment that makes you feel down, that makes you feel alone. Yes, it has a certain influence, but the environment is only a victim of what the majority of humans think of. Yes, a toxic environment is toxic because there have been hundreds of generations of people before that have been feeling bad and have been forced to feel bad through impoverishment. Yes, the same thing that happened in the medieval times also happens today. Empowered or enforced impoverishment is the same thing that a sick society will do. Yes, and well, to put it short, a lot of people also feel bad because they embrace their misery. When people feel hopeless, they just give up on themselves and they embrace this idea of suffering, of misery, as their own comfort. So obviously, they will feel somewhat comfortable within it and they will give up any um, responsibility, because in the end it's easy to live without responsibilities, and every responsibility sounds like pain, sounds like a prison sentence, or even worse, a death sentence. Yes, but leave everyone else to their own. When you look yourself in the mirror, you're just you. Yes, there is one piece of life, which is you in that physical body, and there is one single mind in there. There are no other voices or the such other than the voice of intuition, for example. And in the end, you are basically alone already. Other people are just tools, if you want to look at it, or other beings that you can coalesce with and form groups and communities to simply do things and to simply ensure that your life is much better and that you can achieve some results faster and you can learn things from the others. Yes? If there's literally no one to learn new things from and everyone is functioning and doing the same thing in the same exact way, well, that is a prison. It is not much of an environment anymore. So finding ways to release yourself from such prisons would be paramount to your survival. So a lot of people end up feeling drained and alone mainly because they're doing the same thing their ancestors have been doing. They're entertaining the same circus within their mind. Yes? So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated, take care, enjoy life, and this being said, Ferinjan Board signing out.